Acting President Yemi Osinbajo and President of Ghana meet, highlights role both countries play in West African sub-region.
Fun seekers throng recreation parks and gardens in Abuja as Nigerians savor the joy of Eid al-Fitr.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan says unity of Nigeria should be paramount in the minds of all citizens.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we are examining poor agricultural mechanization in Nigeria against the backdrop of the current hoe and cutlass system and national aspiration to attain food security.
In terms of natural and human resources, Nigeria is one of the most blessed nations in the world, and of course, that she has not been able to solve her problems of food and agriculture is a matter of very great concern. And of course, the reasons for this, experts say, are not far-fetched.
But yes, Claire, it is a well-established fact, that Nigeria's agricultural sector employs over 70% of the total workforce. And despite this, Nigeria still struggles to meet food demand, resulting into massive importation of food into the country.
Indeed, Kieran, in one of its reports, that's the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, says a vast majority of work on smallholder farms in sub-Saharan Africa, especially in Nigeria, is still done exclusively by hand or, of course, animal drought power.
Yes, and you also know, Claire, that instead of using some affordable modern agricultural techniques or simple machines, farmers in many communities in Nigeria have changelessly adhered to various archaic agricultural methods and farm practices that were copied from their ancestors.
Indeed, Kieran, of course, it has made farming very, very cumbersome and unattractive, especially to youths and, of course, leading to very poor output. But conversely, in the United States, where we understand that only about 3% of the entire population, of course, are farmers, yet they meet to a great extent the food needs of their country. Now, the massive production rate is said to have been possible by the use of sophisticated farming machines and techniques, of course, which is totally lacking in our own Nigerian agricultural system.
Exactly, Claire. And with an increased concern that unless Nigeria's agriculture increases labor efficiency, it cannot meet future food demand. Experts argue that time is now for the country to key into ideas and strategies on kickstarting an agricultural mechanization revolution in the country.
Now, Kieran, let's break it down. It says in simple language, what is agricultural mechanization? Of course, it's the introduction of tools, implements, now I have to quote now, machines, equipment, technology in the cultivation of farmlands and processing of food, or the substitution of crude farm implements and practices with advanced machines and systems. Now, off quote.
Now, you see, adoption of technology has always been the bane of national development, because, of course, if it's adopted in the agricultural sector, the nation will be the better for it. Now, only about 2% of farmers in Nigeria are reported to engage in mechanized agricultural system. In fact, the mechanization rate is about 0.27 horsepower per hectare. This is far below the FAO recommended rate of 1.5 horsepower per hectare.
Indeed, Kieran, most other countries, of course, that are not as richly endowed as Nigeria are doing much, much better. In fact, some of them like Pakistan, Thailand and all that are doing, we understand by statistics, as much as, over 3 horsepower per hectare. But of course, you would ask, why has Nigeria failed to embrace mechanized farming? And of course, there are many factors. Let's read out some of them according to experts. One of them related to land tenure system, poverty, inaccessibility of credit, poor infrastructure, high level of illiteracy among farmers, and the main issue, lack of maintenance or expertise to maintain some of these equipment.
And also experts believe that though these challenges are daunting, they are not insurmountable with the right policies and political will. And the political will is what the Buhari administration seems to have in good measure, especially with its green alternative initiative.
Indeed, under that program, Kieran, the government, of course, is partnering, China, Africa Missionary, and implementing what you call agricultural mechanization, which is has involved several states across the country. Some of them are Zamfara, Adamawa, Jigawa, Sokoto, Taraba, and so on. And this will enable them to have access to tractors, to be able to improve their agricultural mechanization initiative.
And now, is that the way to go? Well, what has become of local research and development of agricultural machines and tools? What are the policy options and incentives to improve access to agricultural credits? And how can penetration of farm mechanization be enhanced in Nigeria?
Indeed, now through the supply of tractors, which of course we understand supposed to be assembled here in Nigeria, and in credit partnership with farmers, which they will obtain and pay over a period of between 7 and 8 years at a single digit interest rate. Now, these are other questions that we will be asking, or of course we will be putting across to the experts, those who know better, why we are still where we are, of course, when we talk about agricultural mechanization. Once again, this is Good Morning Nigeria. It's reaching you on this second holiday day on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. I am Claire Adilabu Abdul Razak, wishing you Barakade Salam.
Yeah. All right, and I am Kieran Umayo joining Claire, who just back from the Salah holiday because yesterday you were not here.
I was at work all through.
Yesterday you were not here. All right, and we're also going to bring you usual, complimentary segments in this show, and that's including newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. But we are kickstarting actually with the news this morning, and there we have a delectable Lydia Bassey as our guide.
Thank you, Kieran. I wonder why you both are in black. Happy Salah to you both. Good morning and welcome to the news. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo and President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana have highlighted the critical role that Nigeria and Ghana play as the centerpiece of ECOWAS and in the West African sub-region. This was during a meeting by the two leaders at the official residence of the acting president in Abuja. Meanwhile, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Onyama, has expressed Nigeria's desire to further strengthen and expand cooperation with Tunisia in economic fields, develop trade exchanges, and benefit from the investment opportunities available in the two countries.
We face this, and therefore we have identified areas where we feel that the two countries can really achieve real concrete deliverables.
Away from foreign relations matters, Nigerians took advantage of the public holiday to catch fun. Adebola Brooklyn Sunday, who went round the Federal Capital Territory, traced a horde of fun seekers to one of the parks and gardens in the city center. And in the spirit of Eid al-Fitr, Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje of Kano State has officially pardoned 500 inmates of prisons in the state. This was during the governor's visit to the Kano prison. Meanwhile, the brief restriction of vehicular movement imposed on Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, due to security concerns, did not dampen the celebration of Muslim faithful as they observed Eid al-Fitr, marking the end of the month-long Ramadan fast.
Borno is calm, it's peaceful, only that there are pockets of bombings here and there.
There's prevailing peace throughout the state and across Maiduguri city. People are very happy. They are going about their normal businesses.
However, in an unfortunate incident on Sunday night, after a day filled with celebration, 16 persons, including 7 suicide bombers, died in a multiple suicide bomb attack on University of Maiduguri and Zanari community.
Serious blows on them at their strongholds in the bushes. And the only way, as I keep saying, the only way they can continue to establish their relevance is through what they are doing now. So we hope that what the state government has put in place with passion, and then the collaboration of all security agencies, very soon incidents of bomb explosion will be a thing of history.
The federal government, through the Presidential Enablement Environment Council, is coming up with software applications that will give Nigerians power to monitor services delivery processes of public agencies. This is in line with government's resolve to improve ease of doing business in Nigeria.
Measuring the effect of the reforms internally through Servicom and other processes, we want the Nigerian public to be able to tell us empirically now where we're working and where things are not working.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan says the unity of Nigeria should be paramount in the minds of citizens. He said this when members of the People's Democratic Party visited him in Abuja.
I also want to appreciate you as the leader of our party in this country today. And we'll never get tired of saying we're very, very proud of you. We're proud of your kind and brand of leadership.
That's the news for now. Claire and Kieran will be back after this break. Good morning.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words: run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Thank you for joining us. If you've just tuned in, you're watching Good Morning Nigerian. Time now to talk business and financial institutions on holiday in Nigeria, and federal government meets with global agencies on improving financial commitment to vaccines and immunizations as coverage stands at 50%. We have details of all this with Joy Uzo.
Compliments of the season and a warm welcome to business news. We start with the financial sector. The interbank rate eased to around 8% at the weekend from 15% after the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, repaid 152.6 billion naira in matured debt and paid refunds to bank for their forex cash provisions. The CBN issued 20 billion naira of 356-day treasury bills at 18.6% and 383 million naira of 167-day treasury bills at 18% on Friday to reduce liquidity and curb speculation on the local currency. Nigeria's money market will resume trading on Wednesday after a two-day public holiday to mark Muslim festival of Eid al-Fitr. Nigeria will need more investment in vaccines and immunization to boost the Human Development Index of the country. Minister of Budget and National Planning, Udoma, during a meeting in Abuja with the Chief Executive Officer of the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization, Gavi, Dr. Seth Barkley, said government will leverage on every available support to protect the future generation. Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Adewale, and Permanent Secretary to the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Mahmood Isadusi, were also in attendance.
Of our people, the health of our population, the health of our children is very important to this government.
We want to thank you publicly for ensuring that the amount we propose has been retained, and National Assembly also retained the same. And as soon as disbursement starts, we will approach Minister of Finance to allow us to pay this back up.
Professor Adewale recalled the assistance the country had benefited from Gavi, which has crossed $1 billion support over the years. Dr. Barkley, in his presentation, said it became necessary for more investment in the country as Nigeria now has the highest number of under-immunized children in the world, displacing India.
A critical priority for the health sector. For every dollar that is spent on vaccines, we get benefits of $44 in return. This compares to infrastructure projects where we see maybe a 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 return.
The meeting centered around ways to improve immunization access to Nigeria children. In another development, the federal government has warned chief executive officers of ministries, departments and agencies against inflating their personal budgets for the 2018 fiscal period. The warning is contained in the 2018 Personnel Budget Call Circular issued and personally signed by the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Senator Udoma. The circular was sent to the Chief of Staff to the President, the Deputy Chief of Staff to the Vice President, all ministers, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, all service chiefs, and the Inspector General of Police. Others are the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, all chairmen of commissions, all permanent secretaries, and heads of extra-ministerial departments, and the Auditor General for the Federation. The move is part of the measures aimed at checking cases of ghost workers as well as reducing the rising wage bill, which accounted for about 1.88 trillion naira, or 63% of the recurrent non-debt expenditure of 2.99 trillion naira in the 2017 budget. The minister says since the federal government had commenced the preparation of the 2018 budget, the circular was issued to provide special instructions to all the senior officials of government agencies charged with the responsibility of preparing and submitting their personnel budgets. And that's it on Business News. I am Joy Uzo.
Thank you very much indeed, Joy, for that. Now, newspaper review is next on Good Morning Nigeria.
And we gladly welcome in our midst this morning Mr. Bayo Atoyebi, who of course gladly and generously availed us with your holidays.
Thank you, Claire. Good morning. Let me say Baraka de Sallah to you. Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you, Bayo.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, let's begin. Kieran, you want me to start off?
No, let me take this one. Daily Trust. There are interesting stories there. Just below the nameplate on Daily Trust. Man exchanges boy for 48,000 naira worth of rice. That's unbelievable. That's on page 4
bizarre.
of Daily Trust. Well, close to that is that war is no tea party, says IBB. The story is also on page 4. And the main headline on Daily Trust this morning, Borno builds trenches as Boko Haram attacks University of Maiduguri again. 16 killed on Saturday, says the police. And of course, university needs 2 billion naira for security, says the university authority. Page 5, you get full details of that. Now, below, you can see a photograph of children enjoying the Saturday at the Millennium Park here, in Abuja. Very excited and enjoying themselves. And below that, again, on the foot of the Daily Trust this morning, local government workers threaten a strike over unpaid salaries. Details on page 9. Then, Jonathan, no president can do magic in a restless nation. On page 34, of course, it has had experience of running the nation. And then electricity generation drops by 1,000 megawatts. That's on page 13 of Daily Trust.
Okay, let me follow up with a new Telegraph, and again, it relates with the story. IBB calls for restructuring. Comes with a rider, says federal government should oversee foreign policy, defense, economy, and ex-president backs state police, devolution of powers. Quite a number of stories there. And the picture story that we see is of course the general officer commanding 7th Division, Brigadier General Ibrahim Yusuf, with GOC task force. That's, of course, greeting wounded soldiers at the 7th Division Medical Services yesterday. And that's, of course, the stories on the front page of the New Telegraph. But before we take this day, let's get back to Bayo.
Yes, the peaceful atmosphere that pervaded the Eid Fitr period was broken in Maiduguri. By Sunday evening, 3 suicide bombers attacked the University of Maiduguri. In fact, in the process, 3 security men who vigilantly were trying to resist them, unfortunately, were killed. By Monday afternoon, 4 other suicide bombers had attacked, and they left a casualty of about 16 persons. It may be recalled that the University of Maiduguri has been at the receiving end of attack since January 16, when they first infiltrated, and one of the victims was a renowned veterinary professor. The university is located at the outskirts of Maiduguri and along Bama Road, which is about 45 kilometers away from Kauri town, which is the main entrance to Sambisa Forest. Incidentally, Governor Kashim Shettima had told the State Executive Council on Saturday morning that while addressing the council members that though the troops have recorded tremendous success, the persistent infiltration into the suburbs and the precincts of Maiduguri was becoming very worrying. And he says all hands must be on deck to give the military the support. The citizens must be ready to give information about these suicide bombers who are constantly infiltrating, so that that can be needed in the board. Coming away from 2 prominent former leaders that have made appeal about hate speech in the nation, former President Goodluck Jonathan has called on Nigerians to pray and work towards the nation's unity. Mr. Jonathan, while playing host to delegation of former ministers during his administration, says no nation or economy can grow where there was no peace. We should use this period to know that the unity of the country is paramount. We cannot develop as a nation no matter how people demonstrate. No president can do magic if there is tension in the land. Former military president General Ibrahim Badawasi Babangida has also condemned what this day described as ongoing altercation and vituperation of hate across the country. He warned that starting wars or political upheavals come with slight provocation. And he says, recalling his own friends that he says he has made across the nation, he said this was based on character and content and not sentiments of religion and not what part of Nigeria people call for. He advocated for the devolution of powers to giving more responsibility to states. He says even the idea of having federal roots in towns and cities have become outdated. New thoughts are required to strengthen our nationality.
All right, Bayo, let's quickly take a look at the blueprint. It has a very, very catchy headline, and of course it says, stop beating drums of war IBB wants. If we can get that, of course you see. Of course, secession, stop beating drums of war IBB wants. You can see the details of that on page 6. There are other stories on the front page of blueprint. If we can, there you get APC's visibility at national level poor. Well, that's coming from the Adamawa Commissioner. But there are other stories. Grazing reserves, you can see that. Yobe provides 2,500 hectares of land to federal government. Now, Navy Bayelsa community partner against oil theft. And just trending at the bottom there, applying 1999 constitution correctly can resolve agitations. You can find the details of that on, of course, the inside page. Kira, you have another page?
Yes. Now, let's look at Punch. Let's look at Punch and see what the paper has on as its headlines today. Yes, you can see that Salah message, that's above the nameplate. Buhari's choice of Hausa wrong, says Reps Majority Leader, Chief Whip and others. We can get details of that story on page 7. And then on the right side of the nameplate, PDP governors back APC governors calling for restructuring. And of course, the main headline, Fashola attacks National Assembly. With the rider, you have stuck worrisome knowledge. Minister tells lawmakers, says legislators more interested in boreholes than building highways. No concession agreement on legals about expressways, and of course, second Niger bridge. That's on the headline of Punch. And then moving down towards the bottom of after the photograph, actually. Okay, the photograph there shows 7 suicide bombers that killed 9 at the University of Maiduguri, which we have read also in other newspapers. On Punch is on page 10, and then on the foot of the newspaper, federal government seeks $5 billion from World Bank to boost power. All right, 2 cops killed as vigilante group and police clash in Niger State. And then Army needs Taraba monarchs, local government officials over killings. Well, these are some of the stories trending on Punch this morning.
Indeed, Bayo, the main story for me is the one on the blueprint, of course, coming from a former, head of state and president who's seen it all. Quite instructive. Stop beating drums of war.
Yes, that was the emphasis former President Ibrahim Babangida emphasized on. And also, former President Goodluck Jonathan also emphasized the same thing. He said there will be no development. There can't be any development, and no president can perform magic in an atmosphere where there's no peace. But let's quickly return to the mood of the nation now, which is that of Eid al-Kabir. Federation of Muslim Women Organization, Form 1 in Bayelsa, organized a family picnic and medical outreach in Yenagua. Hajia Folashate Shitu says it was a program that led to the interaction with residents to show love and charity to all, irrespective of faith. They had a battalion of doctors, medical lab scientists, and they provided routine malaria investigation, hepatitis B tests, urine analysis, and it was open to both Christians and Muslims. And across there in Calabar, the Hausa Fulani community, led by Alhaji Salisu Lawan, has urged Nigerians to live in peace. And he says all religions advocate peaceful coexistence, and without peace, we cannot experience any progress. And he cites himself as an example. He recalls that his grandfather settled in Calabar several years ago. His father had his grandfather had his father, and his father had all his siblings, and all of them have since then been living and have grown up in Calabar. They see the people there they live with as their brothers and sisters, and he called that we all should live in peace. And I think that is a very strong message.
Yes, that is key to national coexistence. Now let's get to Business Day. Maybe that's our last paper for today. Let's look at Business Day. And okay, this day is still there. Business day, Etisalat, Nigeria faces narrow M&A options post-debt default. You need to get that properly, you know, when you get to the page where that headline is located in the business day, and then looking in from outside the business day investor series. Well, these are some of the stories. Let's go to the foot of that newspaper and see whether we have some stories. Right, Nigeria stocks in record 1.9 trillion naira half year again. For those who are business inclined, you understand some of these, you know, the kind of language being applied on that paper. Go forward again. Let's get to the foot. Okay, and that's all that we have on business day. Bayo, I don't know you as a businessman.
just before, because we don't have time, I'd also like you to talk about the recent increase in tuition
fees.
Yes. School fees by 38 universities, over 150%, some of them.
Yes, actually, let's start with the stock. I had my hands burned at investing in the stock, but that's notwithstanding, there have been some improvement, and the business is reporting 1.9 trillion gain in stock, which means at least the economy is bubbling and people are beginning to have confidence in investing. 38 universities have increased school fees. The Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities has attributed this to poor funding. It's very worrisome because, for instance, University of Lagos, which school fees was 14,000, is now charging 63,000. That of University of Ilorin was University of Ilorin was 16,000. It's now gone to 75,000. So parents will now have to cough out much more money in this period of recession to pay children's school fees.
And some of the private universities are now, you know, taking as much as 1-point-something million.
The least among them all is about 1.4, 1.5 million.
What is that doing to the educational sector in this country?
It means that education is going beyond the reach of anybody who can afford it. So the children of the indigent may not be able to afford education.
All right, Maya, that probably is how we'll like to stop our review for today. We'll see you again tomorrow. We'd like to thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, as always.
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria. You're watching it live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We'll take our first break now.
The Future Assured project of the wife of the president, Aisha Muhammad Buhari, is carrying out free medical screening and distribution of food items at various IDP camps while ensuring the economic empowerment of women through training and skill acquisition. In recognition of her efforts, wives of governors have lent their voices and support.
In Kogi State, we feel the impact of Future Assured, especially in women and children.
The Future Assured program of Mrs. Aisha Muhammad Buhari, the wife of the president, has been very assuring and still reassuring in Sokoto State. It has impacted positively in the areas of humanity, especially women and children.
Supports the Future Assured initiative. Email programs@futureassured.org.ng. Future Assured, promoting and protecting the lives of Nigerian women and children.
Pump it up while your feet are stomping and the jam is pumping. Look ahead, the crowd is jumping. Pump up the jam and push up your hand. You know, say me advance them plenty like sun. Jump up and dance, make them understand. Say me energy could have never be contraband. Them say me hype and excited because no boy can't hype like me. All of my fans them invited.
Nigeria is one of the most highly blessed nations in Africa, but it is baffling that she has not been able to solve her problems of food and agriculture. Oyemi Ajayi in this background report takes a look at the implications of low level of mechanized agriculture on food production in Nigeria.
The man with a hoe remains the typical description of the Nigerian farmer of today.
Report has it that only 2% of farmers in Nigeria are engaged in mechanized agriculture, which means 98% others still farm with the traditional hoes and cutlasses. And this explains why most youths in Nigeria see agriculture as a difficult and dirty job and the craze for non-existent white-collar jobs, while the work of farming is left alone to the older ones. But the question is, can Nigeria's dream of food security be achieved through the present hoes and cutlass system of farming? The immediate past administration, in its efforts at reviving agriculture through mechanized farming, directed the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN) to provide 50 billion naira to support agricultural equipment hiring enterprises to establish 1,500 private sector-run agricultural equipment leasing enterprises nationwide. There was also the electric wallet initiative by the former Agric Minister Akinwumi Adesina. Likewise, the Growth Enhancement Scheme, under which the government has been providing subsidized farming inputs and mechanization support vouchers to farmers to provide and modernize farming. With the inception of the Buhari-led administration, diversification of the economy was given more steam, with special focus on development of agriculture. Therefore, it has become imperative to change the narratives of Nigerian agricultural system from the Asian type into a more mechanized system. Hence, the second phase of the agricultural equipment hiring enterprise has been flagged off by the Minister of Agriculture, Audu Ogbe. The minister says it would be unthinkable and counterproductive to think of developing agriculture in Nigeria by continuing to distribute hoes, axes, and ordinary and low-yielding seeds to farmers. This is why governments at all levels are embracing the development of mechanized farming, as mechanized agriculture is said to be more beneficial as it increases production, it increases efficiency and per man productivity. Mechanization increases the yield of land per unit of area. It results in low cost of work. Likewise, it modifies social structure in rural areas. But again, agric mechanization has its downsides. The two sides of agric mechanization is why we serve you today on Good Morning Nigeria.
All right, many thanks to you, Yemi Ajay, for that backgrounder. And if you've just joined us, it's the man with the hoe and food security in Nigeria. That's our topic for conversation. Let me quickly introduce our guest. Kabir Ibrahim is President All Farmers Association of Nigeria. And of course, he's right here with us. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Nigeria, and good morning.
And we've also Professor Abdullahi Elokene, is former program leader at Greek Mechanization Institute for Agriculture, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He joins us via Skype from Zaria. Thank you very much, Prof. Elokene, for joining us.
Good morning, morning.
Okay, thank you. And here in the studio, rather in our Ibadan Network Center, we have also with us this morning, Asta Godwin. Asta Godwin is a communication and knowledge exchange expert, IITA in Ibadan. Mr. Godwin, you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, and thank you so much.
All right, and Dr. Ahmed Adekunle Senior is a Senior Technical Advisor to Agri Minister on Mechanization and the Chairman, Advisory Ministerial Mechanization Committee here in Abuja. So you're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll start with him. You know, let's look at why has Nigeria not been able to feed herself, or what are the challenges to agricultural production in Nigeria, do you think?
Thank you very much. You know, this is a very large topic, but let me start by saying that we have to look at the system of farming and the style of farming in Nigeria. The system of farming is subsistent, and as a result of that, we have a cash trap, which is funding. The availability of inputs such as proper land clearing, fertilizer, seedling and its application, and most especially extensions. All this put together is creating a problem and slowing the rate of production in Nigeria.
Okay, let me take the question to Malam Ibrahim, you know, President All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Despite the fact that farmers all over the world in other climes have moved on. The Nigerian farmer is still described as the man with the hoe. Why have we remained at that level?
Well, many reasons. One of which is, and is chief amongst them, we discovered oil. Nigeria discovered oil, and we relegated agriculture to the background. So we saw no improvement and no need to really try to feed ourselves. We relied heavily on oil, and because we were getting money and importing food. But now, thank God, the realities have come to bear on us. The tendency is that we want to look and be able to be food sufficient within. And to that extent, the information that you have today is a lot of mechanization is going to come in. A lot of science is going to come into agriculture. And a lot of focus is now on agriculture as a matter of necessity.
Before we go, where do you put the lacuna? Is it at the doorstep of the farmer or at the doorstep of the governments at all tiers?
I don't draw any distinction between government and the farmer. We are government. We are all human beings, and most of the people in government are actually farmers. But the tendency is the mindset of the Nigerian that has to change. The blame is on everybody. Both the farmer or the so-called farmer and the people in government.
Now, before we leave you, there is this West African Agricultural Productivity Program, WAP, which has been introducing technologies at various levels of agricultural practice. Wouldn't that also go a long way in bringing in some mechanization among the farmers?
Of course, that should surely do that, and it is already doing it. We embrace mechanization agriculture. But we have handicaps, which in due course we will unravel in the course of this discussion. But most of the issues are around finance, funding, and technology. Indigenous technology, improvisations that we don't have. We don't have our minds in agriculture in Nigeria to the extent of making it a business and making us self-sufficient. So we tend to hold agriculture, not with an iron hand, not with the attitude that we should, if we want to feed ourselves and be self-sufficient.
All right, let's go to Zaria, of course, where Professor Abdullahi El Okene is joining us via Skype. Prof, you've listened to the president of Farmers Association. He says he does not, throw the blame at the doorsteps of anyone, that everybody is to be, held responsible. But do you think that Nigerian farmers have actually made themselves, available to, opportunities in developing, of course, him or herself?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I don't know, are you hearing me? Okay. The whole issue is more of the executive rather than even policy. The issue of food security in Nigeria has to do more with the executive. Because if you look at Nigeria today, about 70% of Nigerians are involved in farming. And it's a livelihood to about 60%, not like in US where you have between 3 to 7% that are only involved in agriculture. This, to some extent, is good for us which means it's an employer. But the issue of mechanization is very important. Mechanization is, if you have the land, you have the resources, you need the power. And the power is what you use in tilling the land. We are still using hoes and just things like that. And whenever the executive decides to go into mechanization, the problem is they go in more of cosmetic. You want to bring in tractors, you want to bring it. The important thing first is to put attention on these farmers themselves, not on what you see outside the country. For example, most farmers are low scale, just having a hectare, 3 hectares, 4 hectares. They are still the ones feeding Nigeria. Put attention onto them. If the attention was on them, then you will have known that 80% of our resources in agriculture should be on small-scale tractors, like 14 horsepower tractors to 20 horsepower tractors, that these farmers cannot, they don't have to be hiring tractors, they should own it. As long as the farmer does not have the tool he's using by himself, he has to hire it or depend on gratis, then he cannot move forward. So the problem with the government has always been that the executive tries to impress by saying, okay, let me import tractors, let me get so many hectareages. No, put attention on the small-scale farmers and small tools that they need to use. That's why you find IAR, Institute of Agricultural Research, the mechanization strive has been towards small to medium-scale holding. This is what the government needs to put emphasis on. For the large-scale farmers, they have the resources, they can go out and they get what they want. And they only need credits from the government. So my own problem is that, yeah, you can have good seeds, you can have good fertilizer, but how do you expand your hectareage? How do you make sure the farmer is not suffering? How do you make the young graduate to be able to say, okay, let me have 5 hectares. Can I make something out of it? If he can, he will do. So the issue is the executive should pay attention more on the farmers that are on ground, not on the farmers that don't yet exist.
Thank you very much. We'll return to you in a short while. But now let's go over to Ibadan, where we have Asta Godwin, a staff of IITA. Mr. Godwin, IITA has been partnering with Nigeria for decades. What, in your opinion, is the reason why the nation has not been able to mechanize its agriculture?
Thank you so much for having me on the program. In IITA here, we believe that for the country to move forward, the country must actually do away with the use of hoes and cutlasses. And IITA has been in the forefront of that. We have seen mechanization in the context of the whole value chain. So if you look at cassava production, for instance, what we have been able to do is to see how we bring in machines, but not just bringing in machines. What we do in IITA is to bring the local expertise to look at what we have here in IITA and see how they can develop a Nigerian version. And we have done that successfully because we've seen that in the past, what government does is to bring in machines where you don't have the local expertise. But what IITA has been able to do over the years is to bring in machines, get the local expertise, then adapt those machines to the Nigerian context. And this has been successful. Today, if you talk about the Nigerian cassava flash dryer, this was something that was brought in from Brazil, and we assembled the Nigerian engineers across the Federation, and we were able to build a Nigerian version. Today, when you talk about cassava flour, it is possible because many Nigerian expertise are here, producing those machines. That is one. So, for us to get it right, we must do mechanization in the context of the Nigerian environment, which is very key. 2, today we have simple mechanical tools that are now within cassava farms. And this is very simple. We felt that it is possible to actually import, which is what the government has been doing over the years. But then we felt that that wasn't sustainable. So through a project known as Cassava Weed Management Project, we were able to bring in some simple weeders, arrange the local experts here, they dissected those machines, look at it, and today we have a made-in-Nigeria weeder in cassava. So what I'm trying to say is that if we look at mechanization, we should try to put mechanization in context. Can we actually produce the machines? But if we put mechanization in a in the context of importation of these machines over and over. That will not be sustainable. And this is what we have seen, because when government officials travel, sometimes they see machines, they love them, they bring it in, and then you don't have the local expertise to actually maintain and sustain these machines. So these are some of the things. And then our context, most of our farmers are small scale. So you don't bring machines that are so big. If you calculate the ROI of bringing very heavy equipment and giving to small-scale farmers who don't have the capacity to actually maintain those, that will make the program not to be successful. And these are some of the things that we see happen. If you go to the ADPs, you see big machines that were imported, but then again, no expertise to actually maintain, no places to actually get the parts when the machines break down to actually replace. So mechanization must actually be done in the context of the people, in the context of the resources that the people have themselves, resources in terms of capacity of maintaining those equipment, then the capacity of actually procuring those machines and even the parts. Then that will be sustainable.
Esther Godwin, you've actually fast-forwarded our conversation to, mechanization. You've raised some points that we will, of course, take one after the other as the conversation progresses. But let's again, clearly lay the foundation for, the position we are at the moment. And that's why I'm coming back to Dr. Adekunle. Some other countries that are not, as well endowed as Nigeria in terms of natural resources, in terms of human resources. US, for instance, we understand that US, of all the population, it has just about 3% of them are only farmers, and yet US is able to meet her food requirements. Here is Nigeria. Every part of this country you find, farmers. So why is it that with what we have, we are not able to, meet our food requirement?
Thank you, Claire. I'll go around what the first speaker said, Prof. and Godwin from Ibadan. Let's look at it from this angle in terms of mechanization. If you go to America, you see an American tractor. If you go to India, you find an Indian tractor. If you go to China, you see a Chinese tractor. But when you come to Nigeria, you find both everything here in Nigeria. So there's no way we can develop our food sufficiency without developing the local content. There's no doubt about it. Look at what Prof says from Zaria also, that a farmer also would definitely need to have his own tractor. But we need to look at the economic, the ABCD of owning a tractor. Because you see, where we miss the content here is that we always look at the applied engineering without looking at the economy of owning a tractor. So coming back to what I'm saying, I agree with Godwin. We have to develop the local content, but there is an immediate need for us to develop our own mechanization value chain. So in as much as we want to develop our own local content, we have to embrace bringing other machinery from outside, because we have to face the reality. All right, the reality is this. Coming back to your questions, that you answer, America and India and others. If you look back at the history, Chairman Mao, when he came, the first thing he did was to provide food for his people. And what they embrace is mechanization. So food sufficiency will definitely take us back to mechanization. And
let me pause you. Mechanization, we will come to give a vast definition of mechanization, because the general understanding of mechanization will be the use of simple implements, tractors, as you have said. But it does go much, much deeper than that to include maybe scientific, applications, like, of course, the use of some satellite imagery and all that. But this is another level in the development of agriculture, which presupposes commercial agriculture. And we are not yet there. What we are still practicing is subsistence farming. So is it right at this point in time to still talk about mechanization while we are yet to develop our agriculture to commercial level?
Absolutely. We have to do that. We have to mechanize the farmer that owns 1 hectare to 2 hectares. But that will not lead us to where we're going through. Mechanization is better applicable, do you understand, when we have open land. We don't have that. Our land ownership of all our farmers ranges between 1 to 2 hectares, and they are not accessible. So because of that, we cannot even take the tractors or the equipment into the field to work very well. However, if you look at the cost of the tractor itself, the application of it, the extension, because we miss one area, there is an extension knowledge in area of mechanization application. Until that is looked at, the tractors in the field will not be able to work perfectly all right to yield what we are looking for. So we need to look at that area very well and see how do we make use of the equipment that we have in the field to produce to exact tonnage that we are looking for.
You see, we cannot get to the point of commercial agriculture without mechanization. This can't just work. And you cannot divorce agricultural sector from other sectors of national economy, because we're dependent on importation of these equipment. So says demand in Ibadan. Now, my question is this: we have been talking about tractor hiring schemes in this country, oftentimes, but I have had experience of witnessing prototype machines produced by research institutes across this nation, and nobody had worked towards, commercializing them, because we're talking about local content. For us to be able to maintain those equipment, for us to be able to sustain mechanized agriculture. Now, in the direction of green alternative initiative of the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, what do you think should be done with respect to ensuring that we indigenize some of these machines for our farmers to adapt to it and use it efficiently?
Okay. Now, we're in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, we're running an agricultural equipment hiring enterprise. It is a scheme that delivers mechanization to farmers at farm gates without the farmer necessarily owning the center. When we're putting this enterprise together, it comprises of 5 units of tractors or 3 units of tractors with other harvest and post-harvest equipment, threshers, plow, and ridges. Now, if you say prototype, I have not seen a prototype of tractor in Nigeria. I've not seen a prototype of power tiller in Nigeria, but I've seen a prototype of threshers and the weeder that Godwin talked about in IITA. What we did is that we contracted some of the local fabricators to supply us with about 1,500 units of the local threshers, and these threshers are in the system being used right now. So the government is actually patronizing them, and the system is carrying them along. Well, there is a structure in place right now to work with Bank of Industry and the Ministry of Agriculture and Income, the Center for Agricultural Mechanization.
I'm sorry, Dr. Dikula, I'll pause you for a while. We'll get to that part where we get to know what government is actually doing in terms of its role in this aspect. Let's bring in the president of all farmers. We said earlier on when we started our conversation that the Nigerian farmer is still being seen as the man with the hoe and of course machete. That speaks to the quality of our farmers. Now, my question is, does the Nigerian farmer, really understand what mechanization is all about?
Well, in terms of prosperity, yes. But in actuality, he is incapable of drawing that distinction because he cannot even own, he cannot even access mechanized agriculture, because the enabling environment is not yet there. It does not yet permit, taken root in the system. We have very few tractors, as Adekule would attest. The horsepower per hectare in Nigeria is hardly 0.31, which means that if you take the hectareage that we have inadequate power to really provide the impetus for production. So to that extent, the Nigerian farmer is left with no choice than to take the hoe and do what he is used to doing. But coming out of that, I think now that we are getting value for what we produce, the farmer himself will make effort to acquire some form of mechanization, and that is coming as time goes on, government cannot provide everything. The farmer, out of choice, decided to be a farmer. So he would develop the capacity to own, either in individually or in groups, the ability to be able to mechanize. And that is coming. And I would elaborate as we go.
We have had cooperative societies among the farmers for years, over the years. And now that we're talking about mechanization, most Nigerians may not want to believe that some farmers do not know what mechanization is all about, but they cannot have access to the implements that will improve their farming technology. Now, what are you doing as an association? You've been into this for a while, and you're a farmer. Right. Is there any way you are educating the farmers and, of course, ensuring that they have access to what would make them enhance their production capacity?
You know, I started by telling you that as far as Nigeria is concerned, there is no clear distinction between the people in government and the farmer, because we had alternatives and we relied heavily on importing even food. Today, there are so many things that prevent you from importing. The currency, the strength of your currency is one, and then the farmer is getting value for their produce, and therefore agriculture is becoming more lucrative to partake in. Therefore, there will be serious investments even from the farmers to be able to do that. So mechanization, even, you know, you alluded to the example of the United States. 150 years ago in the United States, the population of the farmers is about 70%. It is now about 2%. Why has it become that? It's not government that produced everything. Government created the enabling environment, and people imbibed that culture and decided to be farmers, and then they got into commercial agriculture. Therefore, they reduced the number of people involved in tilling the land by mechanization. And this is what is going to happen in Nigeria. It has happened everywhere in the world. If you take Japan, for instance, I was telling you about the power we have per hectare is about 0.31. In Japan, it's about 7 horsepower per hectare. And Japan is able to feed itself. And it has a very large, small land mass. They are doing intensive agriculture. Here, even though we are doing extensive agriculture, we are not able to feed ourselves because we do not have the wherewithal to get the best yield from our acreage. So as time goes on, the farmer will do this for himself.
Okay. Professor Elo Kene, I'm sure you're listening in. Are farmers ready to embrace mechanization in terms of skills, in terms of their quality and knowledge, or do they need a kind of process, an orientation process?
Are you hearing me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Prof, go ahead. Go ahead. We can hear you. Okay, we seem to be having audio connection issues. We'll return to Professor Kene. But again, Mr. Godwin, if you can hear us, I just asked the question, do you think that our farmers are ready to embrace mechanization in terms of their skills and knowledge, you know, of the application? Or do you think they need a kind of orientation?
For the farmers here, it is becoming clear that today in Nigeria, we are beginning to have a new set of farmers. That is, the young people are coming into agriculture. The average age of a Nigerian farmer is getting to about 50 plus. So today, young people are becoming interested in agriculture, and this is because, of course, what the president of the All Farmers Association said, which is a currency crisis, and then, of course, the favorable prices for agriculture products like rice, like cassava. So young people are beginning to get interested into agriculture. But there is something that we need to do. And what is this? We need to deliberately scale out some of the technologies that we have, you know, to farmers. Because yes, we keep importing, but I believe that we have a lot of technologies that are on the shelves in the universities, in the different research institutes that are there, which can solve our problems. So we need to see how we can scale out some of these technologies so that farmers are now aware of, these, tools that they can actually make use of. That is very important. And then we need to see how we can engage the private sector in the whole value chain. Because, yes, there is a saying that government has no business being in business. So how do we attract the private investors to come and invest in agriculture, and such that the hiring schemes, for instance, they can be handled and actually managed by the private sector. That would be one way that we should begin to think about. Basically now what you have most common is the hiring of tractors. That is one thing that majority of people think when you're talking about mechanization, then it is tractor. But mechanization actually transcends the hiring or use of tractors. It also involves, as I said earlier, the use of simple machines that can help women and children to actually weed their farms. It includes, milking machine, for instance. It includes machines that can help people to actually produce their cassava or process their cassava better. And several of these technologies are in our institutions. There must be a deliberate and there must be a conscious effort by all of us to see how we can promote these technologies so that farmers are aware of them and they, actually have access to them. Then I think lastly from my end here, before I pause a bit, we need to see how we can provide the financing so that farmers, either through individual farmers, but more importantly, through the cooperative groups, they have access to finance that they can actually be able to procure some of these tools and be able to use them.
All right, thank you very much. Let's return to Professor Okene in Zaria. Professor Okene, you can always talk to us if you get our question clearly, because we can hear you clearly. So this time around, I'll take you back to the question asked to you earlier on by Claire, in which she talked about the preparedness of the Nigerian farmer to adapt to mechanization. Are you certain that farmers in Nigeria are prepared to take to technologies available presently in terms of their knowledge and skill?
The Nigerian farmer has no problem in adaptation. If you look at Institute of Agricultural Research in Zaria, for example, every year we have an annual review program where farmers themselves come to, they attend, they see the technologies we have, and they are willing to adopt. But generally, these technologies can be costly. And what I am saying is that Nigeria is an executive country where the executive powers are huge. Most of the finances are residing within the executive arms of the government. The government should endeavor to do one thing: look inside before going outside. If you are to ask the minister, have you attended meetings, research review meetings done in his country? He has not. He doesn't know what he has in his country. Then why do you go outside? There are a lot of things today that people are going outside to look for. Ministers are going outside. Government officials are going outside to look for that are already in the country. Like the IITA man said, we have done a lot of research work. Despite the very meager resources given to the universities, researches have been done, things are sitting on the shelf, farmers are interested in it, but the cost is not on their side. And what the government should try to do is know that majority of these farmers are middle-scale farmers, having just 5 hectares and below. And they should attract the interest of the government first, before talking of large-scale farming. Because this is where you solve 2 problems at a go. You solve the food security problem, and you also solve the unemployment problem. if you take processing, for example, talk of maize threshers, talk of guinea corn threshers, talk of even weeders and the rest. Some of these have been developed in the various research institutes, particularly in the university-based research institutes. But the government themselves go outside without knowing what they have inside. It's just like you want to grow your child from outside. No, you have to grow your child from inside with the mother first before you go outside. So the problem in Nigeria is not that we don't have the wherewithal, we don't even have the technologies. The ones we have, we're not even using. Well, all the time when you go outside. So look, if you are talking of tractors, tractors start from 14 horsepower to up to 200 horsepower. Bring the 14 horsepower inside to up to 20 horsepower that the farmer can afford. That is less than 4 million naira. The farmer himself can get loan and can afford. If you look at our irrigation today, the farmer himself goes to the market, buy his own irrigation pump. Let the farmer be in charge of his own equipment. Hiring will not work because the farming in Nigeria is based on rainy season. If I want to weed my farm today, I need my tractor today to work today. I can't go and say I want to hire. The hiring person will tell me, okay, come tomorrow. Then the moisture will become too much. So the issue of tractorization in Nigeria is that we have to look at small-scale tractors like 14 horsepower, 20 horsepower, complete with the equipments like the planters, the weeders, and the rest. And like what the IITA man said, when Nigeria was given enough money to research institute, we used to import ourselves what we think are good equipments, then modify it and make it to be suitable for us. We have done that in the past where we bring it Kubota tractors of about just 12 horsepower, made it available to farmers. But today, the problem we are having is the interest of the government is just, you want large-scale farming. Large-scale farming. What of your own farmers that have been working on the farm and are still using hose? What are you doing about them? What of your farmers that are still threshing with your hands? What are you doing about them? What your research institutes that have a lot of research outputs there. You have also income for the government there with research outputs. They should be patronized, and the government should pay attention to these research institutes. So that's the only way we can move forward.
Also put that same question to you, because we do know that the government at the state and at the federal level have really been showing enough, quite significant support to farmers in terms of partnership and, of course, access to loans. But as an institute, beyond what you said you do, what have you been able to do to, expose your farmers, to these new technologies? What research findings have you been able to, to come out with?
Our best to attend. We also hold our own fairs. Like I told you, we have annual review meeting, like this year's annual review meeting. The House of Rep in charge of the agricultural sector was there. But we need also the government people to be there, the credit people to be there to know what the farmers require. The farmers want this. Some of them that are able to buy, they purchase. Some are not able to purchase, but whatever you do in the country, you need the assistance of the government. You cannot just say, when we are talking of food security, remember that if you don't have enough food in your country, no matter the profit you have, it is meaningless. First of all, you have to own your food before you start talking. Most of these things that we have brought out, we go to trade fairs in Abuja there, we have come to trade fair. In the Nigerian trade fair always done in Kebbi, we are there. Also, we hold our annual review meetings. Despite the meager resources the government gives to us, we do all this. But it is important for the government to pay more attention inward, rather than just thinking of importing cosmetic things. You go outside, you see big things, you say, oh, we want to bring them inside. That will not solve our problem. What do you have in the house? Is the husband cannot go outside to bring food from Mr. Biggs when there is food in the house to be cooked and the wife is not given the money to cook it.
Thank you very much indeed. We are back to the studio here, and I have this question for Kabiru. You're a farmer, very close to farmers. We used to have this ADP system, where a program is designed to introduce farmers to new technologies. Does that still exist?
Yes, it is there, but funding is becoming very critical. But I assure you that the states and the ADPs in the states are collaborating with the farmers, and they're exposing the farmers to new technologies and all that. But there is need for more activities in that direction. I would like to talk about what Prof. Abdullahi has been talking about, the refills. We attend refills annually in IAR, and there they tell us their findings. We are exposed to their findings.
What are some of those findings?
You know, they are doing research even on some crops. The yield on some crops. They also do some extension work on some farms, some selected farms. They have demonstration farms all around there, and they bring out results of what they have done with maize, for instance, with cotton, with ground guinea corn and things like that. I believe they have some competence. You know, all the research institutes have been given certain things that they will develop competencies on. I believe they are doing their best, and the farmers are imbibing that. But he has mentioned one thing that we have harped on for a very long time, that there is inadequate funding for the research institutes. If that can improve, I believe they will do more.
Okay, let's get back again to Dr. Adekule. Earlier on you talked about fragmentation of land, which is a major factor in mechanization process. Right now, Nigerian farmers don't have access to that. What we have are small holding farms. So what is government doing towards that?
Thank you very much. You know, when you come to the land tenure system, it's a very complicated subject, and we have to go through it slowly. Now, I would like to use this opportunity right now to say that I rather provide solution than complain. What government is planning, we have a program called FEGAL, PPP. It's the Federal Government Land Development to do with the private sector, where the state, the state and the local government own the land. Federal government doesn't own land. So the federal government is proposing to the state government and the local government that, all right, we have 1 hectare, 2 hectares. That is very difficult for us to really fully mechanize that, in as much as they're the one feeding the nation. But at the same time, if we want to go into smart agriculture, you understand, whereby it is fully mechanized and easy, return on investment is guaranteed, we have to open more land. So there's this proposal on ground to go with the federal government and the state government in the next maybe 3 to 4, 5 years to open up about between 500 to 1 million hectares, contiguous, you understand, whereby we have about 1,000 hectare stretch. And each of these 1,000 hectare stretch, you understand, will be given to youths, you know, at about 3 to 5 hectares, 3 to 5 hectares. Funding will be made available along the value chain. When I say value chain, that is from production to finishing and market. So federal government right now, we have this proposal on ground, and we're looking at it. We're discussing with the Union Bank, we're discussing with First Bank, you understand, to see how that can be funded under a private sector framework with the state government. Okay. Now, I would like to talk about what Prof says in terms of mechanization, you understand, in terms of research institution. I agree with him 100% that, we like it or not, we still have to put our local institutions to develop our mechanization. And that is what I said earlier on, that if you, in Nigeria, you see all kinds of tractors, but when you go back to other countries, they have their own tractors. Exactly. So we have to develop our own. We have Pakistan's tractors from Pakistan. Exactly. So what are we doing? There is a proposal on our table right now that we're working. We want to work with the Bank of Industry. Bank of Agriculture is being re-engineered right now, and funds will be pumped into it to work with National Center for Agricultural Mechanization and few institutions like where Professor is here right now, whereby a global mechanization fund will be made available.
But is there also a plan to provide some form of support, mechanization support, for the smallholder farmers at this stage, before we even get to the large,
Absolutely, absolutely. You see, in the ministry right now, we have 2 mechanization systems. I have to talk about this because that's where I am. We have the tractor hiring, you understand, which talks only about tractors.
You heard what Professor Abdullahi talked about.
But mechanization is beyond tractor hiring. We have the thresher, we have the processing, we have everything. The traditional mechanization structure of the engineering department is taking care of that. It's making all this equipment available, from threshers to processing to oil extractors to power tillers, available at a 60% discounted price. Large volume of it has been purchased for 2016 budget, and they are available right now, including pumping machine to sell to all farmers. Farmers have to go through their own local.
At cooperative level?
At cooperative level. They see, not cooperative level. Yeah, cooperative level. Cooperative will come as a cooperative. Individual farmer will put in the application to the ministry to get this at the 60% discounted price. So we are making a lot of effort, you understand, to see that the research institution, you
this
understand.
60% discounted price will amount to how much?
It depends on the price of the technology. It depends on the price of the
machine. Would it be affordable?
Of course, it will be affordable.
I want to thank you very much, Dr. Dekunle, because I think what we're saying is revolving around one thing, the lack of development of technology, the technology sector in this country. You cannot indigenize tractors and all of that without having a clear-cut, deliberate attempt to develop our own homemade technology to service all that. But before we return to you, Nigerians have been reacting to this conversation, and so let's look at what they are saying, before we return to you. We have tweets here with us. The first one from Fabio Stephen S. He says, government is only paying lip service to the mechanization issue. They still want us to use hoes and cutlasses. This is evident in their actions.
And Bride Iron tweets, the question is, those on top, are they listening? Will they execute some of those ideas brought to them?
All right, now, Sani Michael Omokaji, the federal government keeps on talking tough on the need to go back to the land, but the machines needed for land tillage are limited in supply.
Now, Dele Jack Solomon tweets, to change the unsavory image of Nigerian agriculture, it's imperative to adopt an appropriate level of engine power agricultural mechanization.
Innocent Yawel says a mechanized system of farming is gradually reaching the rural people, but local government should assist in educating the farmers on better ways.
And Festus Akimboyewa tweets, government should now encourage mechanized farming now that petrol dollars are scarce. The government should urgently invest in mechanized agriculture so that small and medium-sized farmers will not be forced to abandon agriculture.
And Sani Michael Omokoji once again says, Dr. Ahmed, sir, do you think government has provided enough machines and technology to aid agricultural revolution in Nigeria?
All right, those are some of the tweets. We'll, of course, that have come in. We expect you to send in more. Of course, your suggestions and comments. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, we'll continue with our conversation.
Oh boy, climb this thing now. Not be only to connect lights. Come you and yourself now. Now wow. Oh boy, come down now. Oga Kasali electrician, who would they look for with this? Oh, Oga Kasali, come help us fix this wire now.
Sorry, I no longer carry out illegal connection. It puts the lives of people at risk and can cause fire outbreak and disrupt power supply. I will never be part of anything that has to do with this any longer because change begins with me.
Oh boy, letting him talk makes sense. Oh boy, we could carry this ladder from over.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Admission forms for the 2017-2018 academic session of NTA Television College JAWS into its diploma programs are now on sale. The diploma programs are in film and TV production, broadcast journalism, and TV engineering technology. Applicants are required to have at least 5 credits, including English language and mathematics at SSC, NECO, or GCO levels in not more than 1 sitting. Application forms can be obtained from the TV College Refi JAWS or at any NTA zonal centers nationwide on payment of a no-refundable fee of 7,500 naira in bank draft in favor of NTA Television College. Completed application forms should be returned to the Office of the Academic Secretary, NTA Television College, or the Center of Purchase on or before 28th of July 2017. For further inquiries, please call 0806 980 9807 or 0703 660 7155. NTA Television College, training you to be the best you can be.
And we're discussing the man with the whole and food security in Nigeria. Of course, we have very competent guests here in the studio, but let me take my question to the All Farmers Association of Nigeria President, Kabiru Ibrahim. Off camera, we were discussing about the economy of going, mechanized farming. And Dr. Adekunle here did remind us that, look, the production yield per hectare is not even sufficient for that. What exactly are farmers, demanding from the government?
Well, there are many things, one of which is the enabling environment to be able to do agriculture itself from government. That is to say that whatever we produce, we should be able to sell at a profit and readily. We should also be able to store what we produce, so that, transport and store so that we don't lose what we produce. 3, we should be able to process what we produce so that we add value to our products to be able to get more income from what we produce. If we sell what we produce in its primary form, we get nothing. That is why we are poor. But, whatever is entrenched in the new agri policy, that is the green alternative, is encouraging us to be able to put our hands on deck to be able to do more. But to enhance our productivity, first and foremost, we need good seeds. Of course, we need some form of mechanization. It may not be the level that people are talking about now, but in time, it is going to require us to own very large-scale tractors. I will give you my take on what tractorization means. If you have a group or a village like my own, and you place 200 horsepower Massey Ferguson tractors, 3 number of them, and you give them to the people, to the farmers, to cooperatively work on their farms with them, it is better than the small tractors that government buys and subsidizes to people, which they use only in one season, in one rainy season. And then when they don't have money, they take the implements and start selling. So thousands of them have been bought by various state governments. And when you look, they are nowhere. I will tell you something, some bad experience that I had in Ghana some time ago. I saw small tractors. These small tractors, I think they were brought into this country by the Jigawa government under one governor. And all those tractors found their ways to the West African coasts. People were selling them off. And when I saw them in Ghana, I asked what they were, and somebody told me, whispered to me that, look, these things were bought from Nigeria. So this guy or the governor then bought thousands of them. And because people have no money, the farmers had no money, even when they got them, they now sold them off. So today we don't have that. And I alluded to one thing, that we have been 0.31 horsepower per hectare in Nigeria, which is grossly inadequate for a nation that is 100% or almost agrarian.
Now, I'm interested in what one of the things that you mentioned here, that's the processing of agricultural produce in Nigeria. Now, because the question to you was, what do you need? What do farmers need from government? Now, with respect to that aspect, would you now think that government should be the one engaging in the processing, or is there any way the private sector could be part of this process?
But I always subscribe to less government in doing things. Government itself cannot do these things. But people should have the enabling environment to be able to do it. People should invest. Look, like people invest in prospecting for oil. We should be able to invest in agriculture. The people should be able to buy so many equipment for processing. You buy equipment to process chicken, process maize, process anything. And they will be available. There will be, some hubs for processing this and that in given localities. And when you produce anything, it is processed, and then you will sell the processed item at a higher value than the primary form that you have in your farm. That way, you become rich. A farmer should be rich. If I am farming to feed you, you should pay me for what I produce, and therefore I will be rich in the end.
Dr. Kule, you had what he said about the tractors that were found in other countries of Africa. That's number one. Number two is on the issue of processing.
I still want to, please, I'll seek your indulgence. I still want to bring Professor Kenny back to what he's saying. You see, the issue of mechanization, we have to go about it very careful. Because what we look at is that we just look at the engineering application aspect of it. We forget about the funding aspect of it. Mechanization is capital intensive. If you remember very well in the 80s, when the banks were going computerized, the shareholders never liked it. Let me even bring you to the present dates. Construction company, oil companies, when they want to buy equipment, they don't like it because it's capital intensive. Yeah, we're dealing with a farmer who is operating under 1 to 3 hectares, and his yield, if you give him 1 tractor, he can't pay that money in 15 years, and we are saying to give him 1 tractor. No private sector will invest in mechanization until we're able to give them a business plan and a cash analysis that will show return on investment. And that is what the ministry is doing by setting up this agricultural equipment hiring enterprise to run under the private sector driven framework. We understand clearly that some farmers have the capacity to take equipment by themselves. Some don't. Majority of them. 70% of them cannot because they operate between 1 to 3 hectares. And if you give them 1 tractor, they can't pay in 15 years. So who will invest in them? Nobody. They don't have financial credibility.
So what's the way out?
The way out, you understand, is what the government have created right now, which some of the private sector service delivery NGOs, organizations are operating like TOAN and TOFAN, and the federal government private sector driven service providers. So what we did, you understand, is to set up hiring equipments nationwide. Federal government have about 115 of it now, comprising of almost 800 units of tractors, spread all over the nation. Don't forget that Nigeria's population is about 200 million, and 70 and 80% also are farmers. So 1,000 units of tractor is nothing. So the government is trying, but the only way we can mechanize these farmers with 1 hectare, 2 hectare, is to take mechanization to them, and they pay at a subsidized rate. Federal government will subsidize, the state government will subsidize, local government will subsidize it. If you give any farmer that is operating under 20 hectares, under 10 hectares, a tractor, he would not be able to pay, he would not be bankable. So we have to go about it carefully in terms of funding and financing, because it's capital intensive.
Okay, you've talked about hiring.
Yeah.
And I know Professor Elokene also talked about hiring. We've got some tweets, but Prof, I'd like you to speak to the issue of hiring. You're not in support of hiring tractors and hiring tractors to farmers. Speak to that, as well as your findings, your research findings, to, of course, support the farmers. Apart from hiring, what are your suggestions?
The issue of hiring tractors, I'm not so much in favor of hiring tractors, because farming is any farming that is based on rain-fed farming. It has to be on schedule. And in trying to hire tractors, if you have a disappointment from the hiring firm, you have a serious problem. That's why you hear me saying that we should look at small-scale technologies. We have tractors that are 14 horsepower, 15 horsepower that we have tested here, and they work, and farmers can afford. Any tractor that is smaller, is lower than 4 million naira, 6 million naira, farmers can be assisted to purchase. So if you want to hire tractors, yes, you can hire, but there is a danger in it that some of the operations on the farm may not be on schedule, and any schedule that is missed, it has disastrous effect on rain-fed farming. So let the attention be more on getting equipment, technology that farmers can own themselves, either through loan or through long-term repayment schedule, whatever it is. And like I've said, the big-time farmers, they also can own their tractors, the large-scale tractors they need to have. So this is it. But with respect to IAR, we have worked on, weeding tools, using animals. We have worked on using small, horsepower prime movers to thresh. Like we have threshers that can thresh maize up to 100 bags in less than an hour. And all these are there, and we have succeeded in most of these things. We also have dryers. I had IIT discussing about flash dryers. We have dryers that can dry tomato, can dry most of the vegetables that you need to dry, and these have been tested and they are working well. We also have storage facilities like for storing onions for upward of 4 months. And presently we are developing a cool storage that can store dry tomato for up to 1 year. All these things are there. But when it comes to hiring, you need to be very efficient in hiring. And Nigerian system efficiency is very low. So if you are disappointed by a hiring firm, then you will have your operations on the farm delayed. And that can be very disastrous to the crops on the field. So this is...
What do you think is the value of animal-driven technology that you have, which is one of your findings? What do you think will be the value of the animal-driven technology that, of course, which is the outcome of some of your researches?
Well, drone tools are still very useful because if you come to the savannah here, a lot of farmers have bulls. Even you have blacksmiths that produce the tools themselves. Like even wooden tools are produced here in Zaria by blacksmiths. We don't have to do it. After we have finished, some blacksmiths themselves, they do it. And in the savannah, animal attraction is very valuable and it is working well. So, and purchasing, even hiring the animal attraction here, bulls of animals, some people are just specializing in hiring it out during this farming season and they make a lot of money from it. All these are areas government can liaise with places like NAPRI that are breeding animals to breed animals that are strong and are cheaper to be owned. So Nigeria should pursue technologies from all the levels, from the hand, from the animal, from the tractor, and from even the automatic farming. We shouldn't just limit ourselves to one area. We should look at all the available opportunities, and that will take care of also all the available farmers.
All right, I'm reminded by Kieran here that, of course, the animal-driven technology is indigenous, and that's the way to go. Kieran, that's your belief.
Not just indigenous, because what Prof has said is very, very apt, because tractorization is just one aspect of mechanization, because we have development of high-yielding seeds and all of that, so when you plan to have more yields, it's very, very important in mechanization, because mechanization, you always yield food, enough food for you to eat, and of course, export. Right. Now, let's go to what Nigerians are saying. So far, we have more tweets now. Claire. Yeah. Tony E.A. Says federal and state governments are not ready to help the poor farming system. Poor farmers don't have money to buy existing farming materials.
Okay, now Al-Hassan Ilya tweets, very interesting topic, God guides. But again, let me quickly take Kieran. Clifford Ago Goisi tweets, what does the man with the hoe need? Now, that's the question. He needs a hoe that gels with his physical component. He needs good roads to get it to his farm. He needs appropriate tools that will help him produce yields in plenty. These tools needs do not necessarily have to be imported. They could be produced locally.
Now, Bello Sabo says farmers are ready to embrace mechanization. The only challenge is that the implements are not affordable to most farmers. Governments can acquire these implements and allow farmers to use them on credit and pay after harvest. Implement supply must be adequate.
All right, and Bello Sabo tweets, farmers are ready to embrace mechanization. The only challenge is that the implements are not affordable to most farmers. Governments can acquire these implements and allow farmers to use them on credit and pay after harvest. Implement supply must be adequate.
And finally, from Mike Anyakwo, he says, government should do the needful to helping these farmers that still use primitive methods in our country.
Okay, and okay, that's all, Kieran.
Yeah, that's all we have now.
That's all we have. Thank you all for your tweets, and again, let's drive the question back to Dr. Adekunle, who is, of course, from the Ministry of Agriculture. I've just been told that we used to have what they call tractor factory in Bauchi and in Kano. Now, these are any plans to, you know, resuscitate them, bring them back to life?
Yeah, absolutely. The federal government right now is discussing with the Brazilian government and the Chinese government to go into partnership with them to massively mechanize the agricultural value chain. And one of the agreement is that we insist on at least minimum of 25% local content. It means that part of it would have to be assembled here, you know, set up, you understand, and also distributed. So one of the conditions given is that we are going to visit, we are already visiting Bauchi to see how we can go into partnership with the Bauchi state government, linking them with the Brazilian government to overhaul the assembly plant there, and so that the assembly plant will be up and running again to assemble some of this tractor from Brazil and from China. Also, MTM recently wrote to the Honorable Minister inviting him, you understand, to come and take a they didn't even know that we already finalized that we are going to visit them, you understand, to look into it. So definitely with the Brazilian partnership and the Chinese partnership, we will definitely bring those factories back.
What are you doing about the issue of, you know, cost, affordability to access to, you know, hiring the tractors, which has been a challenge?
Well, beautiful. See, it is a partnership. It's a loan from the Chinese and the Brazil government. The price is off the shelf. What I mean off the shelf is the price that is being sold outside. The only thing that will be added to it is cost of transportation and cost of clearing. When it is assembled, it will be given. Now, we are going through the federal government tractor hiring scheme, which is a leasing package in the corporate world. We just ask ourselves, why can't a farmer, you understand, take equipment and pay over a period of 3 to 4, 5 years? And we did the calculation and reversed this some financial re-engineering, and we offered it to them at 7%. So that is what we are using right now to work with the Chinese government and also with the Brazilian government to make sure that the equipment gets to the farmer at an affordable price and also at a single digit. Now, federal government is taking this loan almost at 1%. So the tractor getting to the farmer will not be more than 2 to 3%, all factor being equal. And they have a period of between 10 to 15 years to pay, unlike the first phase and the second phase that was implemented with over 800 units of tractor, which is 7%. This one will be coming at maximum of 3% and payable over a period of 15 years. It is not just tractors. We are mechanizing all the value chain, including production, including processing. But we have gone into agreement for local content.
What is the gestation period of this? Because those tractor business has been established some years ago, and somehow perhaps abandoned, as the case may be. Now you are trying to revive it again, and you are, you know, of course, positing some beautiful plans and arrangements and all of that. Then we also think of the affordability by the farmers when those things are put in place.
Yeah, well, the program will be up and running in the next, say, 9 months to 10 months. Obviously, those factories, those assembly plants will be up and running. But in terms of pricing, we have to face the reality. It's against what the dollar is. It's against what the dollar is.
Okay. Mr. Dekule, let's pause you again. We've got some tweets here. Let's quickly take them before we take our last comment from Mr. Godwin.
All right, Ibrahim Shaibu. Well, I love your morning show. Well, then as the Kariba, let me just take this one. Government should fund research institutes and ADPs for achievable targets and see to it that they are met. Example, let all the mechanical departments of all the institutes come together to develop a Nigerian type of tractor and let's commercialize through PPP. I believe in.
And Gospel Ambassador states agriculture needs to become a homestead level practice to achieve food surplus. Nigerian engineers should be trained to build local machines.
And Cowboy says the magic wand in policy change and incentives to investors, government should hands off and create enabling environment for private investors.
Ayodele Israel tweets, good morning. According to the topic this morning, all I can say is that our Nigerian government has have shifted their focus onto agriculture. I hope that's what you mean by this tweet. Thank you very much. But let me take my question to Mr. Godwin. Mr. Godwin, please, we just will appreciate if you respond briefly. Now, mechanization, it's not all, rosy. There are some implications, and one of those is the fact that some people will be displaced, unskilled labor will be displaced. Given the level of unemployment now, is that a way to go? Or how can we, of course, accommodate this set of people that are likely to be displaced?
At the moment, as I said earlier, you have the average age of a farmer in the bracket of 50 years, and the young people are not willing to go into agriculture if we still maintain status quo, that is using the hoe and machetes. Now, the only thing we need to do is to see how we can incentivize them by bringing in simple tools that can make agriculture sexy, if you want to put it. And therefore, mechanization becomes very, very important. Now, if we fail to do that, and these farmers that are now in the age bracket of 50 plus, they, reach their, retirement age, so to say, in quote, then it means that we are going to face a lot of food crisis. Then the other thing I want to also talk about briefly, because you say I should be brave, is the issue of looking at mechanization in context and looking at mechanization across the whole value chain. And I give an instance. For the weeders, for instance, if we are able to promote the weeders that we have today, we'll be able to raise the productivity of our crops to as much as 60 to 70%, because farmers in cassava, for instance, are losing up to 90% when they don't weed. So that is the kind of gain that you make as a result of actually adopting some of this mechanization. Then the women and the children that face the brunt, they carry the burden of not mechanization, they will have to have themselves into productive areas, because mechanization must have actually lifted that burden that this group of people face as a result of the drudgery of using hoe and machetes. So there is no other way to go when you look at the benefits vis-a-vis the demerits of not mechanizing. We surely need to actually mechanize.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Asta Godwin, Communication and Knowledge Exchange Expert with IITA Ibadan. Thank you for appearing on Good Morning Nigeria today.
Thank you so much.
Right, and also Professor Abdullahi L. Okene, former program leader, Agri Mechanization Institute for Agriculture, ABU Zaria. Thank you, Prof, for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Kabiru Ibrahim, President, All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And last but certainly not the least, Dr. Ahmed Adekunle, Senior Technical Advisor to Agri Minister on Mechanization and Chair, Advisory Ministerial Mechanization Committee. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We just like you to tell us a final words, because when we have these initiatives, we have certain class of people in mind. In this case, certain class of farmers. Now, you are the president of all the farmers. What are your final thoughts to go?
Well, look, let us
quickly
be realistic about agriculture in Nigeria. Government investment in agriculture is abysmal. At the advent or when this administration came in, I posited that if, for instance, you devote 20% of the national budget to agriculture for 2 years running, at the exit budget of the last administration of 6 trillion, you would have about 4 trillion in agriculture. And you will be able to buy all this equipment, lease them, give or sell them to farmers at very, very low interest rates, not even at any interest rate. A government can give a farmer a tractor that you would pay net without any interest. And that way, we would take agriculture to another level. If we had invested so much in agriculture over the years, the thing would be history now. Nigeria would be able to feed itself and feed all other African nations.
Are you, Dr. Adekunle, are you, working in conjunction with the All Farmers Association?
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, I agree with him, but I have my own way of putting it, you understand. I want to look at it from this content, you understand, that my boss, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Adugbe, always have this saying that in the next 35 years, Nigeria will 500 million population. And then our position will be the fifth, will be that position will be like 55% of the world. What are we doing about it? We have to do some serious financial re-engineering. The issue of, agriculture must go on one single digit. We need to look at it again. The issue of saying, is it affordable? Mechanization, we need to look at it again. Making the mechanization affordable, do you understand? Rather, for me, I will put that funding to increase his productivity so that he'll be able to generate money and pay for it.
All right, the time is no longer on our side, Dr. Adekunle. But at this point, I'd like to thank you for being part of the show this morning. Adekunle is the technical advisor to Agricultural Minister on Mechanization and Chairman Advisory Ministerial Mechanization Committee. Thank you once again. And Kabiru Ibrahim, President of All Farmers Association of Nigeria. It's been wonderful having you this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, now to sports. Nigeria, Fernando Adi sets another goals record at the Major League Soccer MLS club. Super Eagles captain John Obi Mikel set to return in 2 weeks from injury. And in tennis, Heather Watson wins to advance to second round in Istanbul. For details of these and more, let's join our sports desk.